Hi, this is Vic Mignogna, voice of Edward Elric in Full Metal Alchemist. Captain Kirk in Star Trek continues. And do you know what the best podcast is? I'm going to tell you. Five-ish Fangirls, yeah!
The tangents and squee continue all the way to episode 106 of the Five-ish Fangirls podcast. I've always wanted to do this. Space, the final frontier. These are the voyages of the Starship Enterprise. Its continuing mission to explore strange new worlds, to seek out new life and new civilizations, to boldly go where no one has gone before. Welcome everyone to this week's episode of the Five-ish Fangirls podcast. So glad you could join us. Let's start off like we do every week by going around the virtual table and see who's joined us this week.
This is Brittany in Bellevue.
This is Chrissy in Salt Lake City.
This is Holly from Wisconsin.
This is Mitch in Kitchener, Ontario.
And this is Rachel in Indianapolis, Indiana. Hello everyone.
Hello.
Hello.
You did it. You did the intro beautifully. You even spelled boldly right. Other things.
I just copied that from the internet.
And I was biting my tongue to start bursting into the theme song.
Yeah. Then you got to decide which one. It's like, do you go classic or do you do next gen?
Exactly.
Which one are you more comfortable singing?
Or maybe a mix of the two.
I don't know.
You start with one and gradually, and maybe throw some DS9 in there for fun.
Maybe. Yep. Anyway, we're all Star Trek nerding out, and we're only a minute and a half into the show. Yay! So we've got a fun show this week. We don't actually really have any news. It's been fairly quiet with everything getting ready to come back on TV. They're just kind of constantly popping up like, images on Instagram and all this. The show comes back on this date at this time, and I'm going, yes, I know, thank you. Thank you for the reminder. So, it's been fairly quiet. We do have a little bit of housekeeping, though.
Yes, the October book club poll for the Doctor Who Goodreads Traveling Vortex book club is up and ready for votes. So you have until the end of the month, and October's book will be announced October 1st.
Mm-hmm. That's really it for news, though. As we had schedule got a little wonky there because of our guest, the last show. We actually recorded our last show on the Star Trek anniversary.
Yes, we did.
Funnily enough. But we would be remiss to not let September 8th pass without, and particularly this year, to not discuss Star Trek. So the show has actually been a long time coming. But with that, we also have brought in a special guest this particular week.
Yes, well, I'll go ahead and introduce him because he's like 2 rooms down from me, physically. My husband, Jared, who's like super Star Trek nerd, and I'm like, oh, we've got to get him on this show. So Jared is here with us. Say hi, Jared.
Hello, everyone. And yes, I was raised on Star Trek.
If you want to tell the whole story, you should tell the story.
Oh, okay. Well, so I was 3 when Next Generation came out, and my mom and her sister are both huge Star Trek fans. And at that point, my aunt was in West Germany because my uncle was deployed. He was a pilot in the Army. So not only were we insanely hyped up sitting down in front of the TV a half hour ahead of time to watch the premiere of Next Generation, we had bought in a VCR, well, 2 VCRs, shipped one to West Germany, and then recorded every episode, paid to ship the discs to Germany. My aunt would watch them and then ship them back so my mom could watch them again. 7 years,
Wow.
No, I guess it was about 3 years of that before they moved back to America. So yeah, when I say I was raised on Star Trek, I do mean literally.
Wow. That is dedication. Especially for, the 80s.
Yeah.
In the early 90s. Oh, that is awesome.
I wanted my dad to be here, but he was busy.
That's okay.
Yeah, I imagine that
he was actually born the year the original series started.
Nice.
So he can mark his birthdays by how old Star Trek is.
Yeah. I imagine
A few months old because he was born in April.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so he was a few months old when it started, but
too little to know, but
too little. Well, yeah.
Or care.
I mean,
but he'll always
Star Trek fan. His favorite is Next Gen, and I was hoping to have him on here so he could talk about his experience with it, even if he didn't actually say anything and just like wrote stuff down, so I could say it because he's not comfortable with this sort of thing.
Well, your dad should write something down and send it in, and then we'll read it for him.
That's okay.
Yes. You can tell him we suggested that.
Well, maybe I'll get him to listen to this episode, and he can send in feedback based on that next week.
Sounds good.
We'd read it.
Sounds good. I imagine that's probably a lot of people's history with Star Trek if you're of a certain age. I know hearing from other Star Trek fans, a lot of them say, I grew up because of my usually dad. In my case, it's also because of my dad. I remember watching Next Gen when it was new at a certain point because my dad watched it. So my dad and my dad's I don't think he's a huge Star Trek fan, but he's definitely a Star Trek fan. So I got introduced to Star Trek because of him. So, and I imagine that a lot of people, that's their same story. So.
Yep. Yeah. Dad started showing me the reruns of the old Star Trek, and then when Next Gen came out, we watched that. Yep.
Yeah, I remember my dad watching Next Gen, but it was kind of weird because in my house it was like that's something Dad watches, so I don't know. He probably would have been okay if we came in and sat down to watch it because he tried to get my mom into Star Trek, and my mom just does not do sci-fi. Like all of it just goes right over her head. She'll be the first one to admit it, but yeah, I was like, I guess Next Gen's probably kind of a little cerebral for me, or it was when I was younger. I could probably watch it now and be fine because we're watching DS9, and I'm really enjoying that. And I've watched some of the original series, and I enjoyed the reboot movies quite a bit. So I came to Star Trek quite late in my life, but I will say this: it's not how do I say this? It's not because I married a Star Trek geek that I'm getting into Star Trek, but that doesn't hurt.
Yeah, I came to Star Trek with the reboot movies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's about how I am too. But
But since then, I've watched every episode of every series.
Well, there you go.
Yep.
Most of it in the past year.
That's dedication. That is a lot of Star Trek.
It is a lot of Star Trek.
That is a lot of Star Trek. Brittany, what about you? What's your history?
Well, I got into Star Trek when I was young. Would have been the reruns of Next Gen because I was born in the middle of, actually the year before it was over.
Brittany and I were both born towards the end of the third season of Next Gen.
Yeah, it's I think I was born the week before the finale, if I remember the dates right. Looking that up one day. But my dad, like everyone's saying, my dad got me into it. And then I haven't had a chance to watch too much of the original series I've seen all of and Next Gen, but I haven't really seen too much of any of the others, mainly because at the times I never really had TV growing up. And I moved a lot, but I'm walking my way through them now.
Mm. And most of it's on Netflix.
That is true.
If not all of it, so.
And I think that helps a lot because, because of
I
the
think
reboot.
most of it's now been put on Canadian Netflix because it didn't used to be.
Yeah.
'Cause I watched it on Crave TV when I was watching this past year,
Okay.
but I've noticed that it's been put on Netflix up here.
I can't guarantee it'll stay on Netflix once a new series starts and CBS gets their own streaming service up and running.
Well, they have their own streaming service.
Well,
It's
but
just,
with Star
I
Trek
know.
on it, though.
yeah.
Relationship with that because it's going to be on Space Channel,
Yeah.
and I think that's not just like the first episode. I think it's going to be airing like weekly or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's exactly what's happening.
Canada's
but
special.
I do know it's going to be on TV, not the internet. Well, it's going to be on the internet as well because Space has shows on the website after they've aired on TV.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to
I
be
think-
TV here.
Okay.
If most of it's not going to be on TV there.
Yeah. I think, because it's been on Netflix, I mean, this is sort of the same thing with Doctor Who. Well, when Doctor Who was on Netflix, but we won't go into that here. Because they do have the movie reboot, and it's about Kirk, Spock, and Bones, and that crew, the original series crew, and people are like, well, I want to find out about the original. This where they came from, where these characters originally were. So it's like Netflix, because it's on Netflix, people are more easy to they're better able to get into it and understand what it's about and get kind of an all new fan following. And when we went to Salt Lake Comic-Con a couple weeks ago, and William Shatner was there. I don't know. There were plenty of old school fans, older adults who watched it when they were kids, when it was brand new. But then there were a lot of people who were, my age or younger, that were interested in all this kind of stuff. So it's just kind of interesting. Star Trek's got an interesting broad range of fandom, I think.
Yeah. Well, it's a very large fandom just because there is so much to it. I mean, it's essentially Star Trek really is the American equivalent of Doctor Who, in a way. You've got space and aliens and new planets and new creatures and drama and personal
Even
relationships.
a bit of time travel.
Yeah, and even a little bit of time travel. I mean, you've got six TV series, 13 movies up to this point, part of the franchise, books and comics, and I think the only thing they haven't done is Big Finish.
Well,
whatever the American,
audiobooks.
Whatever the American equivalent of Big Finish is. So, I mean, it is kind of the American institution equivalent of Doctor Who, and this 50-year anniversary. I was talking to some people after, and I know, people had shared, I know Sean from Traveling the Vortex had shared, the articles about people's disappointment at the 50th anniversary, that it just kind of came and went, and there wasn't really a whole lot from Star Trek. And I think, unfortunately, Doctor Who set the bar very high for 50th anniversary celebrations.
Set the bar so high. like when I think about Doctor Who's 50th and how excited and all the things that were going on and all the things that were going on that year compared with this year with the Star Trek, and they're like, oh yeah, to the 50th anniversary is
Yeah.
great.
It's got a new movie out.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah, the movie was great. And
Yes.
It's kind of like there were some homages in the movie, but you kind of didn't get the whole feel that 50th anniversary, that's a thing that's happening.
Yeah. I think it was probably somewhat coincidental that the movie came out, just happened to come out the same year. Really, if they'd want it to be more part of the 50th anniversway celebration, I think it should have came
closer to the
out.
actual anniversary, like the week up, like probably on September 9th.
Yeah.
Not way back in July.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just me.
Yeah, that was probably the Suits' decision, though.
Yeah, they're like, summer blockbuster, release it in the summer. I mean, I would have seen it regardless of when it came out, and I did see it, and Chauncey saw it with me, and we thoroughly enjoyed it. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that this one was written by Simon Pegg, who was admittedly, it'd be like Peter Capaldi writing an episode of Doctor Who. You get the fan to be in charge, and you see, a lot more love went into it. So a lot of people are like, thank goodness Simon Pegg took over for this last one. Now, granted, I'm not a lot of people really complained about Into Darkness. And I totally understand. One, because Wrath of Khan in itself is like it for Star Trek movies for a lot of people. And people saw Into Darkness as just a, wannabe Wrath of Khan. Personally, I didn't have any issue with it, and I don't know if that's just because, Wrath of Khan, I don't hold it as high regard, so I wasn't as insulted, I guess. Or maybe it's just the fact that I just really like Benedict Cumberbatch, and I'm excited to see him.
Well, yeah. He's good. I mean, with me, the only real big thing they flubbed was not even casting Benedict, but not addressing it. It's like, all they needed to do, 5 seconds, they go, oh, we changed his look so people won't recognize him. That's it. That's all they needed. And they just kind of ignored it. Minor thing. At least for me.
Well, I think, because I like Into Darkness as well, but yeah, I understand, because now I get the whole, Wrath of Khan is like the one that everybody loves, and it's the classic masterpiece, and rightly so. After I kind of thought about it, what I wish they'd have done is have set up, if they wanted to do Khan, do the setup, like this universe's setup version of the Khan storyline with Starseed, which is the episode that Khan was originally introduced in. And I'm like, or Space Seed, sorry. See, this is why.
I was like, she got it wrong, Space Seed.
Thank you.
Would say
I know the Star Trek people would be down my throat for that one. But yeah, Space Seed, sorry. Anyway, I think that would be an interesting movie if you wanted to do it.
If you expanded it into a feature-length movie, probably.
They also could have done that differently. Like, I mean, you have the character in Khan of Joaquin, his right-hand man. What if they'd done that movie not with Khan, but he's still in stasis, and it's Joaquin is Benedict Cumberbatch trying to get his leader out, and then you could do everything that's more or less the same, and you set it up to have Khan in a future movie.
That could work. Because in Into Darkness, I'm like, who is this guy? Why is he important? Other than, outside the movies, to the fans, he's important. Anyway, but yes, we've talked about this.
Yeah, it's done. It's over with. We've got a new movie that everyone likes significantly better. So
Beyond is awesome.
So much better.
It is what it is.
Into Darkness.
Definitely got Bones and Spock right together.
Yeah.
I was so happy about that.
Awesome.
I will have to say, regardless of how you feel about the writing of the reboots, this alternate storyline, universe Star Trek thing, the casting is
Carl Urban. As
oh
Bones.
my goodness! Somebody give Carl Urban an award. I love Carl Urban as Bones.
Yes.
Well, and if you've ever heard interviews with him when he talks about it, because Chris Pine and Zachary Quinto, they got to meet Shatner and Nimoy, and DeForest Kelley passed away in, what was it, 99?
I think so.
So Carl Urban's talked about, he's talked to the people who knew DeForest Kelley, and just kind of, what kind of person he was, what he did for the role of Bones, and it's like that's what he hoped came through in his role, and I'm like, yeah, I think you did it. Pretty. Not just speaking for myself. I think he's done wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing how broad his range is. I mean, you look at the Bones acting, and you look at Dredd, and he did great in both, and they're so different.
Yep. Oh no, there was those little movies that were made in New Zealand too.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
So, anyway, back to the TV show for a second here. Me personally, of the series that have been on the TV, as much as I love Next Gen, I never really could get into Deep Space Nine for whatever reason. I know my dad watched it, and I remember seeing it on the TV when he was watching it, but it never really held my interest, and I don't know why. It may just the point in my life where I had other interests. I don't know. I was too busy watching Power Rangers, I guess, instead of Star Trek. But Voyager.
Mm-hmm.
Voyager was my jam. I don't know. I don't know if it was just it was the fact that I would say the fact that you've got a female captain finally on TV. That was awesome. It's a different ship. It's not the Enterprise. It's Voyager. It's still the same premise where they're out in space and they encounter different planets and nebulas and strange creatures and all that. But the premise behind it and the fact that they took them 75,000 light years away from Earth to a completely different quadrant in space, and therefore were able to introduce some new, species and, creatures and all that are part of the Delta Quadrant as opposed to the Alpha and Beta Quadrant that had always been what had been explored in the previous series. I mean, they still brought in some familiar, faces. They encounter the Borg. Apparently, the Borg live in the Delta Quadrant. There's Vulcans, the Q. Hello, I always love when they can bring in the Q for any series whatsoever. One of my favorite species ever. And the fact that it wasn't just John Delancey's Q, but they actually brought in other Q as well. So, and actually they went to the Q continuum, although they had to make it something that Captain Janeway would actually be able to conceive, but we got to visit the Q continuum, which was awesome. So, so Voyager is of all the series is my love. I love Voyager. No offense to Patrick Stewart and the Shat and all that.
I mean, Next Gen for me, and then it was Voyager. I mean, nothing against Deep Space Nine. I did watch it, but I just don't know if there just something was. I don't know if it was because of Cisco or that. I mean, I liked Odo, but it was just. I don't know if there was just something there that didn't quite click.
I don't know. I like DS9.
Well, I mean, we're watching it, and Jared, it's your favorite, right?
Oh, yeah.
Well, talk about it.
DS9, I mean, the characters, I think, drive it a lot better. I mean, okay, because the characters are great in Next Generation, but they also had a really hard limit on interpersonal problems because Roddenberry insisted on it. They got away with that with DS9. So characters feel a little more human, I guess, even the ones who aren't. I mean, the Garrick stuff gets great. All the stuff with... Even Quark. Quark is one of my favorite characters of any of it, especially his relationship with Odo.
I will give Deep Space Nine that.
Oh, yeah,
They
they're
throw the
cool.
Ferengi in there, and that always makes for some interesting storylines.
Yeah, him and his bar, the gold press platinum.
So funny.
Well, they had so much fun with it at times. I mean,
what
they
I
did.
like is, well, there's the Trill, which are, their gender doesn't seem as important as it does to humans, because they have the whole thing with the symbiote can go into male or female hosts, which I like. And then the augmented humans that are introduced in, like, with finding out that Bashir's augmented, and then they bring in some other augmented characters that aren't as well integrated in society, and they live in, like, this group home type thing. And I read those as very clearly as, like, being autistic. Like, they seem like they're meant to be, like, they read as autistic to me, like the way that their issues are dealt with, kind of thing.
Okay. I'm trying to think if we've gotten that far yet.
No, we haven't.
Like, they're neurodivergent, basically. They're not like other people. And I really like the way that whole storyline was handled.
Okay.
Yeah, it was done really well, especially since, I mean, yeah, they had their problems, but it never really treated them badly for it. They were just, that was their character, which was really nice. And they had a lot of fun with that, too. I mean, had some really interesting episodes.
Like, talking about how, like, he's one of them, even though he seems most like neurotypical people, but he still considers himself he's still augmented and considers himself to be part of this group when this group is on Deep Space Nine. So, yeah.
And I think that's one of the things that has made Star Trek, I think, most so endearing and popular. And that was something that Roddenberry actually wanted right off the bat, is he wanted to use the series as almost an allegory for social issues. He wanted to use it to talk about, race and gender and, politics and that sort of thing. And I think that's one of the things that's helped with its popularity, because it's not watering down, it touches on the hard issues. And even the series, like today, I finally got caught up on Star Trek Continues, and the latest episode, their latest episode, Embracing the Winds. It's I almost, within a couple of minutes, I'm like, okay, I'm seeing the parallels to things that are happening in today's social and political climate.
Yeah, and when we went to the panel for that at Comic-Con, and people asked him point blank, like, was that a consideration? He's like, Vic was kind of funny, because he was trying to be coy, quote unquote. I'm using air quotes, but he was like, yeah, we didn't want to come down on one side or the other. The thing about Star Trek is they present, their version of the world, but they let you make your own decision. And so, you had
he said something similar that when I saw him, because, like, the way, talking about how they deliberately left it up, like, it could have gone either way, and which way it should have gone is up to viewers to decide.
Yeah, and I like where they said, I can't remember the exact quote, but it's something along the lines of, yeah, it is time for a female captain, but I'm not convinced that that's you. And I was just like, wow.
I think, how did he put it? It was, they say it for the record, it is time for a female captain to command a Constitution-class cruiser. I am just not convinced that captain should be you. Because you're right, it's it was variable, that episode, because, yeah, I could point out there are issues, but at the same time, nothing is as straightforward, because there's always other things going on, like, was the other admiral prejudiced against Spock? Maybe, maybe not. We don't know. And it's always harder to figure out the truth than we would like.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and like you're saying, it's there are always other things to consider when you're talking about stuff like that. And I like that they're not spoon feeding. Star Trek's never spoon fed the answers to you. It's just sort of said, here's the thing, and you make up your own mind, which is a lot better than some other sci-fi things we could talk about. But we're not talking about them. We're talking about Star Trek.
Yeah, I've got to, you've got to give props to Vic and everyone else over that involved with Star Trek Continues, that they've continued, the original series. It was funny because I was watching it and Chauncey came over and saw my tablet and he's like, are you mainlining the original Star Trek series? Like, it didn't, just at first glance he thought it was the actual original series. So they've done such a good job that without, if you just take a look at it, you're like, oh, that's William Shatner and this is that's Leonard Nimoy. It's like, no, it's not. But they've done such a good job of matching, the look. I mean, they've got the lighting and the coloring and,
Well,
the
they recreated
down.
the original set.
Yeah, so they've done such a good job there, but then the writing, has, it still has the same feel, but it also has that same, that undertone that Gene Roddenberry wanted, the original Star Trek series to have. To have that almost allegorical feel to it and allow people to make their own interpretations and come to their own conclusions about the story and potentially apply it to real life. I like the little nod though in the episode when they're in the shuttlecraft and Sulu talks about his great grandfather was in the internment camps. I'm like, yeah, that's not a nod to George Takei at all.
Yeah, that doesn't sound like anybody we could think of, is it?
Not at all. I mean, it's not the nicest thing to reference to because it's an unfortunate part of George Takei's history. But if you know George Takei outside of Star Trek and you know him and his personal history, it's like, oh. Well, I see what you did there.
He did write a musical based on his time in the internment camp.
Yes, he did.
So, it's something he's put out there.
Yeah.
That he talked about.
But whether people pay attention or not.
That does seem appropriate for something like this.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So, it's just one of those things. It's like, oh, yeah, you put a little nod in there to one of the original cast members. So I'm so glad they're continuing that. I'm glad that CBS has decided not to put their thumb down and go, no more. You can't do it.
Well, I think it helps because it seems like they were in contact with the suits at CBS and Paramount from the beginning and very clear with what their intentions were. So I think that helped them a lot.
Yeah.
Plus a defined end date. They're not going to keep doing this. And they have 6 episodes more, and then that's it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
6, because they were going to do 13, and they apparently already have it all planned, or at least how they're going to end it.
Yeah, they have all the
they have it all.
The episodes written.
Excuse me. So I just have to find the time and the resources to do it.
Oh yes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, a lot of the people on Star Trek Continues have jobs outside of. So obviously, Vic does a lot of voiceover work. So.
Yeah. Well, it seems like they get I think at least 2 done a year. So that's for what kind of operation they are, that is pretty.
Yeah, that is
pretty good.
That is pretty good. I'm partial to the episode where they had Colin Baker as a special guest.
Oh, gee, I wonder why.
Guys are traveling the vortex. They're like, yeah, Colin Baker's gonna be at Star Trek Continues. I'm like, what is it online?
It's like, what is this, and how can I find it?
Yes, exactly.
Luckily, it's very easy, even though I keep telling my dad, like, no, you've got to watch this, and he's like, well, where do I find it? I'm like, you've got an iPad, you can look it up. He still won't do it.
Yeah.
Like,
You might have to send him an email with a link in it.
Yeah.
I think I'm just going to have to do that. And like, here, watch it. Love it.
Here's the website. Watch this show.
Yes.
Like, it's not that hard.
Yeah. There's no commercials, so.
Yes, that too. It's like watching it on Netflix.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Star Trek.
I'm trying to think.
It's almost like Doctor Who. It's like, ooh, what do you want? It's like, let's talk about Star Trek. It's like, where do you want to start? Where, like,
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
so much.
I thought I'd do another episode
talk-
with when my dad's not busy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I want to go back for a minute and like just, I mean, I just kind of mentioned this with DS9, like, it's like, and I'm not saying that the others don't do this. It's just I haven't seen them quite as much. But what I've kind of gotten with DS9 is that, you know, they are in one spot. Like with the others, it's like, you know, you're on the Enterprise or the Voyager and you're traveling and seeing all these different planets. But with DS9, it's like you're on the space station, which is near Bajor, and they just got done with the there's a word for it, occupation from Cardassia, and so they're all dealing with that. So it's like you're dealing with the backstory and politics of one section, so you can kind of go a lot deeper into, you know, especially with Kira and to a certain extent Odo.
Her history during the occupation,
Yeah.
like what
Yeah,
happened
and
to her mom and being part of the resistance.
Yeah. And then I also like, you know, because then the Federation comes in, and so you have Cisco and Cisco's son Jake. I think this part, and you know, Jared and I have talked about this. I think this doesn't get quite enough credit. Is that how great of a dad he is? Like he is, yeah, like yes, he's a commander of this space station and later captain, as I understand it. But I'm trying to stay as spoiler free as possible. But
I think the
But, you know,
statute
he's
of limitations has gone out for
well, I know.
DS9.
Yeah, but you're personally trying to stay spoiler free.
Spoiler-free.
Well, yes,
Yeah.
that's true.
Yeah.
It's not
But,
like
Yeah, if you don't want to spoil yourself, I guess.
yeah.
So like my whole thing is like I love that, you know, you focus on this other part of yes, he's a commander and he's part of the command structure in Starfleet and whatever, but he's also a dad, and same thing with O'Brien. He's got his wife and daughter on the space station with him, and it's just like you get that family dynamic as well as space type of stuff, and it's just so much fun.
Yeah.
And
Well, speaking of O'Brien, I like the O'Brien and Keiko's story started in Next Gen and sort of migrated over to DS9 when that started.
yeah,
I like that. I've always had a soft spot for Chief O'Brien.
We
Which is, of
call
course,
them.
why they do the semi-annual Brian must
in
suffer
an episode of Next Gen, right? So, and then
I remember reading a DS9, one of the very first novels, called The Siege. It was it was good, but it was kind of one of the suspense ones, and it had to deal with another shapeshifter that was kind of like Odo when it could turn into anything. And of course, I read it while I was on vacation, sleeping in a cottage that I did not know the first time, and then waking up in the middle of the night like, oh boy, is that class there or or not? I mean, I remember it just stuck with me how well written it was that I think I'm going to have to go back and track that down and reread and see if if my memory hasn't cheated. But I remember way back when just being engrossed and being also totally scared at the same time.
I don't think I've ever read any Star Trek related books.
I've read some of the tie-in novels, some of the next gen stuff, the Imzadi, the Q stuff, Q and Law. Q and Law is a pretty decent one where Q gets engaged to Laxwana Troy. Yeah.
I mean, it's Laxana Troy.
Well, yes, that's true.
I read this one called Engines of Destiny that tied in like generations. The episode of Next Gen when Scotty is pulled out of the transporter beam, and he's been in this transporter beam for like 70 years, and then he gets pulled out of place, and he goes off in a shell craft, and this takes place after that, and it's like following him, and the novel also ties in First Contact, because he goes back in time and pulls Kirk out of the Enterprise B before he's sucked into the Nexus, and because of this, the Borg basically take over the Alpha Quadrant, because without Kirk, the Enterprise D is destroyed in generations, and the crew is like, the crew is killed, basically, and because they die then, they're not around to prevent the Borg going back in time and taking over Earth pre-First Contact, and so the Borg gain a foothold in the Alpha Quadrant in like the mid-21st century, and so it's really fascinating.
Cool.
The day they decided to put time travel into Star Trek.
Well, I mean, Star Trek was like from like the end of the first or second season that they had their first time travel story.
Yeah.
It's been there, but it's like it's not, I mean, I know I'm going back to Doctor Who, but it's not,
and now temporal investigations and stuff, and all this.
Yeah. Well, and we jokingly bring up Doctor Who, but in the comics, Doctor Who and Star Trek are in the same universe.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So
they have a Doctor Who and Star Trek crossover.
Yep.
That one.
Well, they're not
which
exactly
I still haven't
in the
read.
same universe, because in the comics it's made clear that these are two universes that have somehow been brought together unnaturally by the Cybermen.
Well, yeah.
Oh.
But they do exist and are aware of each other. It's not like Star Trek is a TV show
they're more like
in the Doctor Who universe. Yeah. But it's not like it's not like Star Trek is a TV show that characters on Doctor Who watch. They're people that are aware of each other, which is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I just read it's a Doctor Who fan fiction, but it's a Doctor Who and Next Gen alternate universe fan fiction. It's actually not bad. It involves Unit and several incarnations of the Doctor and Captain Picard and all that. I'll find it and put a link to it it's short. It's like 7 chapters, so it's an easy read. It's kind of fun.
I wonder what the Doctor would make a Q. That would be interesting.
That would be, well, depending on which version of the Doctor, that could be a sass-off.
Yeah.
Like nobody's business.
So I'm thinking like Matt Smith versus Q, and then Peter Capaldi versus Q.
Oh, Peter Capaldi.
Capaldi's Doctor, I think, would try to put Q in his place.
Yeah.
What is this try?
I know.
Good point.
Well, I'm trying to give Q a little bit of, bonus points for being omnipotent and having magical powers.
One of the best books that they ever wrote for Star Trek, this was a while ago, was pretty much just a massive debate between Spock and Q. If I remember correctly, I think Spock wins.
There's an
That's
audiobook version of Spock versus Q, and then Spock versus Q2, which with Leonard Nimoy and John Delancey, it is just awesome. There's sass off like you would not believe. I mean, I laughed so hard I was almost nearly in tears, and I was listening to it in my earbuds, and my dogs were just like, what in the heck is going on with you? What are you listening to?
Okay, I need to listen to that now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
Mhm. I don't want to give away Spock versus Q2. It's funny. Because if I say what happens, it's kind of gonna spoil the whole thing.
Okay.
Good to know.
they do
Well, we will-
crazy stuff. I mean, they have there's a whole series of comic books they actually put out. It's published. It's a crossover between Star Trek and X-Men. So of course, they make the comment that Xavier and Picard look the same.
Now, was this
But of
before or
course.
after? I remember reading a Star Trek X-Men crossover novel years back. Years and years. But I don't remember what it was called or much of what exactly
That's
happened.
funny, though. You can
But
just...
I do remember there was one scene where Nightcrawler had to get onto this other ship, and they were talking about could Nightcrawler teleport from one ship to another, but his range is like 2 kilometers, so the two ships had to get really close for him to be able to go from one to the other.
So much
I'm
potential
sure
there.
That was kind of a scary moment.
That's the nice thing about Star Trek is just because the universe itself is so large, and because you involve things like, time travel and different quadrants of space, and therefore your options for, creatures and, species and all that is just endless. That there's just so much ideas just ripe for the picking if you got the time to. Yeah.
Well, and they've gone and expanded it so much over the years. I mean, the original series was just the Enterprise and Captain Kirk and all them, and then I know we keep going back to Doctor Who because it's been going on so long. People who grew up with it are creating it now. We talked about Simon Pegg writing the script for Beyond and co-writing it and those kind of things, and I'm like, and so that's what kind of baffles me, like why it's taking them so long to get another TV show going. It's like, don't you guys realize there's so many people who would want to do this, and let's come on, Paramount, get your act together.
Yeah,
They've been trying. Some of the actors have even tried. I mean, Michael Dorn really pitched a really interesting sounding series about Captain Worf. And sadly, it didn't go anywhere, but...
I would have watched that.
Yeah.
I can think of lots of people would have.
Because I can remember when Enterprise came out, and I was in college, but I think the thing was I can't remember what station it was on, but it got hopped around. It got kind of hopped around, I think, on the UPN station that we had at the time, and it was just like, ugh.
Like by the time Enterprise came around, I was more grown up and therefore had way more responsibilities and working and school and this, that, and the other thing. And as much as I wanted to watch it, because one, it's Star Trek, and two, it was Scott Bakula back on my TV.
Yep.
But I just, I could not devote, I think at the time I really couldn't devote watching any TV whatsoever on a regular basis. And so for me that I watched a couple of episodes when I could, and the next thing I know, it's canceled, and Star Trek has not been on TV since. So, which
Part of that may have been fatigue in general. Because you had Next Generation, and then fourth, fifth season you had DS9 start,
yeah,
and then towards the end of Next Generation, then you had Voyager start. So you had 2 shows on at the same time for quite a while.
yeah. But I think by the time
Enterprise,
it's like by the time Enterprise got canceled, I think Star Trek had been on the air continuously for like 18 years. So that's a lot of Star Trek.
Yeah, that is true.
It's been a while now. Time for a new one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Maybe that's why the Doctor Who comparisons are a little unfair, because when Doctor Who's 50th anniversary came about, it hadn't even been back on TV for 10 years.
Well, yeah. I mean, and it was on TV at the time when the anniversary rolled around, so that helped too. But even then, it's like, even if Doctor Who hadn't been on when the 50th rolled around, there was still all of that previous stuff that they could talk about. I mean, they did all the beyond the Doctor things, and they could have did something with all the
there was
captains.
Beyond the Doctor. There was the book, the ebooks, the audio go.
Yeah, I mean, there were all these specials. They easily CBS easily could have put together some sort of special to air, talking with just talking head interviews with previous cast members and fans and this, that, and the other thing, and put it on TV for an hour or 2 hours, and people would have probably been happy with that. But they didn't do squat.
Well, BBC America that Thursday, September 8th, they were airing the first 2 seasons of Star Trek back to back. I mean, at an hour and 10 minutes episode.
Yeah.
I was like, okay.
So BBC America came in and did what CBS should have.
Yeah, pretty much.
And then Sci-Fi on the other was showing some of the movies. So I was just like, okay, what do I want to watch? Star Trek 4? Okay, then back to classic.
Yeah, one of our local cable access or whatever was showing the original pilot.
Oh, sure, The Cage.
Yeah,
if I remember correctly.
They had remastered it and made it all nice looking and was showing that.
Wow. Well, I watched The Man Trap, Trouble with Tribbles, and Trials and Tribulations. For the anniversary. Because I really liked Trials and Tribulations.
Yeah, that was the DS9 crossover, right?
Yeah, that's the DS9 when they go back in time and have to save Kirk from the Klingons.
Yeah, DS9 I think had better time travel episodes than some of the other shows.
That was one of my fondest memories in high school. As I took a English class and we had to kind of do a forensic based type thing, and the theme I picked was food. and he had to have so many things, and I'm just like, okay, Winnie the Pooh. I had something else, and then I'm just like, what else can I throw in? I was able to find, I think, the script based of Trouble with Tribbles. And my teacher's like, okay, yeah, I'll let you put it in. I was like, yes! Because I was a little nervous that wasn't going to fly. So I had something else in the backup. But when she gave me the green light, I'm like, yay! Middle portion, centerpiece, yes! And there were a few other kids, giving me the thumbs up afterwards when we had to present. Like, good, that went over better than I thought.
Excuse me. Yeah, there's no shortage of usage of Star Trek references for other things.
Yeah,
it's definitely one of those universes that gets referenced a lot in popular culture.
Yep.
So, I mean, anywhere, from pick a cartoon to Doctor Who. Hello, even the 10th Doctor has done the Vulcan salute. So.
Well, even too, when the face-off between the 11th Doctor and the other Doctor, the clone of the 11th, the stuff that he had on the side of his head, I'm just like, little nod to the Borg there.
Yeah.
Well, and Spock was mentioned in The Empty Child Doctor Dances.
Yep.
That's right, yep.
Yeah, and Rose is saying, give me some Spock.
Yeah. Which, considering the comic book, that makes it very interesting, because Rose knows Spock probably from popular culture as a, TV character, yet, as far as the Doctor is concerned, at some point, well, I think the comic is actually Next Gen, isn't it?
It is Next Gen, but there's a flashback to when the 4th Doctor encountered the original Enterprise crew.
So as far as, maybe that's why the 9th Doctor was like, Spock? He's like, I know him. We've met.
There's stuff out there. I mean, there's a comic book I just saw it come into my library the other day where the 11th Doctor meets Matt Smith. He gets trapped in our world.
Doctor Who. Yeah. I have that one. It was like the last comic produced under IDW's Doctor Who license.
Oh, right, yeah, because IDW had the Star Trek license, that's why they did the crossover.
Yeah.
Apparently I need to read more of the comics.
I was even at the comic store today. I couldn't find any of them there. I think either... I did find a Doctor Who coloring book, but I didn't find any of the comics. And I was like, okay.
To the internet.
Anyway. To the internet, yes. I can download them.
I think it's all on Comixology.com, so...
Yeah, I can find it.
You can buy Doctor Who comics. Like, you can buy pretty much... Like, whatever... Like, they have a lot of comics. So if you
want to read up the Doctor Who Star Trek crossover comic, there you go.
Yeah, I'm not worried about trying to find it. It was just funny that. Anyway, never mind. I'm derailing.
Bookstore.
Yeah. We're talking about Star Trek.
Star Trek. Anyway.
Tribbles.
So here's a question then: have any of you looked at this Trek Online game at all? It's me. I think that is a no.
You might be the only one. Star Trek Online.
Adipose TV has a guest streamer, Hues of Blue, that does Star Trek Online streams every week. So if you follow them, you'll get to see him playing through like various missions and stuff.
I'll have to check that out.
I got Star Trek Online on my Xbox last week, but I haven't gone that far into it.
Star Trek thing.
I can't say I've played any.
They released that. Looks pretty good. I mean, the game's been out for 6 years, so got some good polish in it. But yeah, at the same time, it's almost fun to watch those just for the story, because they have a lot of hidden little links back to older stuff, and I have a lot of fun with it too. Because I mean, like, okay, so they replaced the space station in orbit of Earth from what you see in the movies, and no one liked it. So eventually, during one of the yearly anniversaries, Q just showed up and says, I don't like this, snaps his fingers, and changes it back into the old one. So they changed the model, and there's an in-game reason for it. Because Q didn't like it.
Nice. Oh, that sounds like something Q would do.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And apparently he shows up around every Christmas or so and puts everybody in a winter hollow suite thing or something. I don't know. You explain it. I don't like it.
Q's Winter Wonderland with Snowman Borg. And, you get special weapons that are snow guns and stuff, and a lollipop batleth. Just because he's bored.
I can't wait for that now.
I'm just trying to picture a batleth made out of lollipops.
I think the lollipop one was more a lurpa, but same difference. I mean, it's a giant lollipop uses a sword.
Mm-hmm.
Because why?
Because it's cute.
I'm picturing that. It's interesting.
Mm-hmm. I love Q. I really do.
Well, okay, so like I've been watching him play Star Trek Online, and then all of a sudden in December, it's the Q's Winter Wonderland, the Christmas thing, and I'm like, okay, I've been watching this character run around planets and starships and stuff, and all of a sudden you're ice skating, and there's evil snowmen coming after you, and you're fighting them off with a lollipop.
Thanks, Q.
Meanwhile, Brittany's like, is it Christmas yet?
Right? It's all free, so.
Oh, that is fabulous. I need to just to go find some video of somebody doing that on YouTube just so I can see it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that is wonderful. Oh, I guess. Okay. Don't get me started on my love for Q.
Same here.
Well, because I specify, the Q in the game is not Delancey, it's Q Junior, but still.
Oh well.
Still,
Yeah.
I mean.
Mm-hmm.
But still, yeah. Either way,
It's the sire.
Well, and he shows up with dancing Feklar, which, yeah, like a 500-pound giant green ugly thing dancing.
Oh man.
Uh-oh. We lost Holly.
Skype is being kind of rude today.
Yeah.
To be fair, when the Skype never
That is true.
ever rude.
Yeah.
You back, Holly?
Yeah, I'm back. Come on, we're being
Yeah, really?
nice to you. Yeah, jeez. Show me the love.
Oh. Awesome. So, I'm so glad I met John Delancey. He's fabulous. I love him.
Well, there was that, what was it, just Star Trek Borg? It was basically a video game, with videos, not normal play, and it wasn't very good, except they had Delancey as Q, just completely bugging for the camera, and it saves the game, because it was a very bad game, but as a video watching Q, it's hilarious.
There's this game I have on my phone. I haven't really played it, but it has John Delancey sorry, as Q, and he does all the talking. And
Nice.
it's on my phone. It's called Star Trek, but I don't know what it's actually called. And open up, hope they don't have any sound.
Well, there was that that game that John was talking about when he was at PopCon last year, and I'm blanking on the name of it, but it was essentially it was Star Trek. You are a captain, but you can pull from all of Star Trek. So you could have like, Data with
timelines.
Bones McCoy, as your crew. So
It's called Star Trek Timelines.
yeah, Timelines. That's it. So
Another game I have not really played.
yeah.
So I always find these games right before I have stuff to do.
Yeah. Yeah, if we didn't have things like jobs and, sleeping,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that is true.
we could devote more time to playing games and watching Star Trek, among other things.
Reading books.
Yeah, exactly. Reading those comics, apparently, that we need to find.
Mm-hmm.
We're like, comics? There are comics? Oh,
Yeah.
there are comics.
There
Okay.
are. Well, and there's there's documentaries out there too. I mean, just like there's a Trekkies documentary. Actually, I think there's two. I think they made a sequel to the Trekkies documentary. There's a documentary that William Shatner made several years ago that's all about the Star Trek captains.
Mm-hmm.
Which I don't know if it's still on Netflix. It was when I watched it, because that's how I watched it. And I mean, it's all of the captains, including Chris Pine. So if you want to watch something it focuses a lot on Shatner more than anything, because Shatner wrote it and produced it and stars in it. So of course, he's going to put the focus on him mostly. But all of the captains, from the beginning have appeared on it. So.
Part of that with my dad recently. He was watching it, and I went up and watched the last so much with him.
Yeah, I mean, it's not bad. I mean, it's kind of interesting to hear what all of them have been doing ever since. What it was like when they, got the part, and what it was like to come into the franchise, and then what they've been doing ever since, and their relationship with the franchise post, or in Chris Pine's, case, it's not post, still in it. So, as the newest captain, I say newest. He's playing Shatner essentially, but at a different timeline. But he's the newest to the franchise.
Yep.
So.
I'm trying to remember where I saw this or heard it, but it was William Shatner was giving an interview about, I don't remember what, but he was asked, if somebody were to do a biopic of your life, who would you want to play you? And he said Chris Pine.
Cool.
So,
well, fair.
Well, yes.
I don't know. I think Vic. I think Vic could probably do it too.
Yes.
Vic probably could. There may be a bit of a list for that.
I think Vic has definitely got the Shatner the intonation down.
Yeah. So here's something we do need to talk about, because I feel like we'd be grossly remiss if we didn't. Galaxy Quest.
Oh yes.
Oh yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Love it.
Better movies of Star Trek made.
Yeah.
In fact, I have to tell this story, and it ties into Galaxy Quest. So when Jared and I were dating, and we were I can't remember, I don't think this. I think this was probably right before we'd gotten engaged, and my dad was all he didn't want Jared to ask him for his hand or any of that stuff. He just said, have Jared rank all the Star Trek movies from best to worst, and we'll compare notes. And so I got the phone call, and I was actually at Jared's mom and dad's house. We were having dinner with them, and right then and there, he and his mom just started making the list, and they included Galaxy Quest on the list. And that kind of surprised my dad, because he's like, I haven't seen that movie. And I'm like, and you're a Star Trek fan.
Yeah. A lot of Star Trek fans consider it canon. They consider it part of the Star Trek universe. Even though it's a spoof. But they consider it a Star Trek movie, which I'm not a big enough Star Trek fan that I really have any say in the matter, but, anything that's got Alan Rickman in it is A+ in my book. So.
Well, of course.
Yeah, I actually rewatched that one of these days.
I do too. It's funny, in itself, but it's also a great, spoof of Star Trek and other shows like it, Babylon 5 and Stargate and that sort of thing, that sci-fi genre, but I haven't been able to bring myself to watch it yet after Alan Rickman's passing, so.
Alan Rickman is so good in it.
Yeah.
I think that's the first Alan Rickman movie I ever saw, actually. Yes, I know. Shush.
You've seen Die Hard since then, so you're fine.
Alan Rickman's character in Galaxy Quest goes to conventions in full makeup.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Like,
Which
no
they don't
other
do
actor
that.
I know, no actor that I know in real life. Like, I know
nobody else
does that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
so it's like,
I mean, there is definitely
I get the plot point for like the aliens will
be more convinced that it's a bit ridiculous. They show up in costume, in full makeup, you know.
Costume, full makeup, everything is.
And it's also unrealistic. I mean, to be into Star Wars a little bit, but Mark Hamill at the panel Comic-Con was talking about how he still has the Stormtrooper helmet he was using in New Hope. That's a piece of junk and falling apart because it was not made to last at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here it is, 10 years after the show's ended, and he still has his makeup and it still works.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's okay.
We don't question it.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
We just
It's
watch.
called fantasy and sci-fi.
Exactly.
Realistic.
You have to suspend disbelief for quite a bit.
Just a little. I feel like we've covered a lot, and then I feel like we've barely scratched the surface at the same time.
Yeah.
Came home and he doesn't want to talk on here, like I said earlier.
Yeah.
But he does want us to discuss Star Trek Discovery. Like, when do we think it's going to take place? Do we think it's going to... How well do we think it's going to work out, given that Enterprise was canceled after only a few seasons? That sort of thing. So...
Yeah, see, it's kind of hard, because we don't really know a whole lot about it. I mean, we've got a name.
Yeah.
We don't even have a cast even.
We don't have a cast. I mean, we don't even really have a start date because they just pushed it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was supposed to start in January. Now it's supposedly going to be like April or May before it comes out.
Yeah.
So
I kind of think that I think it's going to do well just because now it sort of seems like with anything there's this whole big renaissance of a lot of beloved older properties coming back.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think there's sort of a market for it. I guess I'm trying to think of what to call it, but that's what I can think of. And so I think it's going to do well. It's kind of up to them how the writing and the casting and things like that, like those sorts of things, like how well it does. And so I think, and how well it's treated as well. So I don't know. There's a lot of stuff that's kind of up in the air that we don't really know. But I don't know. I mean, it's really hard to say whether it's going to do well or not at this point. I hope it does, because I think the time is ripe for it. I mean, if it doesn't do well now, it's probably not going to ever do well ever, which is a terrible thing to say, but...
Yeah, well,
hopefully CBS will just give it more than one season as compared to what UPN did. I mean, I don't know.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
you look at the history of the Star Trek TV shows, and really, the original series of all of them had the shortest run.
Right, 3 seasons.
So, unless you count the animated series, which,
right.
I don't know if we want to touch on that. That's a very touchy subject for a lot of people.
I know nothing about it, so I will leave that to other people to
The animated series was. I mean, the animation wasn't that good, but the storylines were along the lines of the original series, just shorter.
Okay.
I haven't seen too much of that, but going back to Discovery, I actually have heard one theory about what it's about. I don't know how much stock I'd put into it, but someone's looking at it, 'cause if you look at it, the ship looks like a cross between the Federation and a Klingon ship. So someone is actually wondering if this isn't some early version of the experiments the Federation did into making a ship with a cloak. Which would also explain why it's not a captain on board, because it's not a full-blown ship with a full crew. It's a secret experiment. And supposedly there's some, if you listen in the trailer that you have, the teaser, you can hear the cloaking sound. I haven't been able to go back and listen to it, so I don't know if it's there or not, but it's at least the one theory I have heard.
Interesting. Very interesting. I mean, I would say, once it does come out, I'll watch it, but considering it's not going to be on TV other than the pilot, and I'm not going to pay to watch one series on a TV network that I don't really watch anything on. CBS is very, considering they canceled Supergirl, I don't necessarily trust their judgment.
Yeah. Well, no, they didn't cancel it. They moved it to the CW,
but CW had to pick it up, though. For a while there, Supergirl did not have a home.
That's true. But, honestly, Supergirl is a lot better served on the CW.
Well, yeah, she belongs on the same network as Arrow and The Flash, and...
Yeah. I wish it had done well on CBS, because CBS really needs to get something other than what they have, CSI and The Big Bang Theory. I like Big Bang Theory, but they're kind of complacent. They don't really get what TV does, what people want from TV nowadays. It's like
they're not hip with it.
No, it's kind of the old people channel.
A little bit.
Which I hate to say, but I'm just like, what? I don't know what else to call it.
Yeah, it kind of is. It kind of is the old. It's like you can only watch so many CSIs or NCISs or whatever is on that network these days. I have no idea. I stopped watching The Big Bang Theory just because I was getting tired of the writing with that, actually, and the way they were going with things. So
yeah, I don't know. They kind of.
CBS does. There's no love between me and CBS right now. So.
Yeah, it's basically their same old. I don't know. Their comedies aren't really all that funny anymore.
Yeah.
Big Bang Theory, the first few were interesting. Then they got away from the geek culture stuff, and it's basically Friends with comic book T-shirts.
Yeah.
And I never watched Friends, so never had any interest in it.
Yeah. Well, and obviously our opinion is based on being here in America. How it'll work for, Mitch in Canada is completely different, so I don't know. It sounds like, they're doing things completely different for, the Canadian audience, so how that will factor into its success, I guess, is still to be seen.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's going to be internationally, it's going to be on Netflix.
Yeah.
I don't the Canadian audience is going to make or break this show.
Well,
it's certainly not going to make it, because the Canadian population is comparatively tiny to the American one.
Well, yes, but the fact that, it sounds like you're going to get more mainstream access to it once it begins is, like I said, I'm not going to go out of my way to watch it. If it's not on TV, I'm not going to pay to watch a show that I don't even know if I'm gonna like.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing with CBS. It's like everybody else has their stuff on Netflix and Hulu. CBS has their own thing, and it's like, why?
They're counting on the strength of the pilot to draw people in and get people to subscribe because they're putting the pilot on TV, from what I hear, and then after that it goes.
Yeah, but I mean, even there, some shows it takes a couple episodes for people to get hooked. I mean, for I hate to bring up Doctor Who again, but for me, it wasn't until I got to Father's Day before Doctor Who had me hooked. That's a lot of episodes.
I get
so.
CBS doesn't know what they're doing by making it exclusive to their streaming service.
Yeah, well, and to make it paid is the thing too, because of like a lot of the networks also have their own streaming app, like ABC does, but you don't have to pay to watch the shows.
Where they put their content online and you can watch it for free.
Yeah, it's putting it behind a paywall,
but for a certain amount of time.
Yeah,
after the episode's aired, you can just go on, watch it, and you don't have to pay any for it.
Yeah, it's the paywall that's a turnoff.
Yeah, and a lot of people, there are a lot of people that just don't have TV. They don't have cable like we don't. We have Netflix and Hulu and Amazon as well. But I mean, all of that is a lot cheaper than having satellite or paying for TV. Because my parents, they have DirecTV and they pay $200 some odd a month, which is fine because that's what they want to do. And I'm like, okay, but I'm not going to. And I'm like, okay, CBS, you're banking on people that watching this on TV to start off with, but not everybody has TV, and not everybody's going to pay just for. I mean, there are Star Trek fans that are like, oh yeah, I'd love to watch it, but it's not on Netflix or whatever. I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
So
I mean, no matter how diehard a fan you are, if you don't have the money, you don't.
Yeah.
Yeah. And even with not having cable or satellite and subscribing to all these things, the more you subscribe to, the more it piles up, and the more you're paying anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you're subscribed to Amazon and Netflix and Hulu and CBS and HBO and whatever, just to get all, as much as you can, then that's going to cost you too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, I foresee, I think CBS is going to go ahead with this experiment. I'm using air quotes, but I don't think it's going to be as successful as they think, and they're going to have to rethink their strategy, and we may end up seeing it just become available either on regular TV or at least not behind a paywall. So, whether it ends up on something like Netflix or Hulu or whatever. So, even if it's one of those situations where, Hulu, sometimes you have to wait a week after airing to watch it.
Mm-hmm.
Even then, it's probably not something that I would rush home to watch when it's on the air anyway. So if I have to wait a week, no biggie. So.
Yeah.
We'll have to see what happens. Of course, the thing that would be interesting to know is, are they putting it on the streaming service because they're confident in it, or because they're not? Because you have to wonder why not just put it on a normal TV slot.
Mm-hmm.
That seems to indicate that maybe they're not very confident in it, which is silly, but there it is.
Well, CBS is very silly.
I wouldn't know, unfortunately. I don't watch much TV at this point. Of course, that might reinforce the thing. If they were less silly, maybe I would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I said, at this point, it's one of those wait-and-see situations.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, as far as Star Trek Discovery is concerned, we will wait and discover how it goes.
Tish.
Thank you. I'll be here all week.
Well, you're here at least this week.
Yes. Oh,
right.
my. Yeah.
Anything else we want to cover Star Trek wise? I mean, I know we could be here all day talking about everything. But,
Yeah.
Yeah.
We could get into a deep discussion of the merits of, red shirts versus,
Stormtroopers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Our
Stormtrooper gets in
favorite.
a fight with the red shirt. He misses every shot. Red shirt dies anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Or get into our favorites out of the movies, with Kirk and Company, and then with the Generation Crew.
Yeah, that's a show all in of itself, like a top
Yeah.
10.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe for the 51st anniversary. Maybe next year.
Yep.
Yep.
We can save stuff for later too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And if you, dear listeners, want to chime in on your favorite Star Trek topic, or what you think Discovery's going to do, or what your ranking list of the Star Trek movies is, or the merits of Whale Song. I know that much about. Is it Star Trek 4?
You got it.
Okay, yay. Well, anyway, if you wanna write in and let us know what your thoughts are on Star Trek, just whatever you want to talk about, or any other topic we've talked on, you can send us feedback. Our email address is 5ishfangirls@gmail.com. You can also go to our website, which is the 5ishfangirlspodcast.blogspot.com. And there you will find links to all of our social media outlets: Facebook, Twitter, I can talk, Tumblr, Pinterest. We're on YouTube, we're on Instagram, and on iTunes. I almost said YouTunes. Oh my gosh, I'm really struggling right now. And anyway, you can leave us a review on iTunes if you like. We're also on Stitcher Radio and Google Play. And then Patreon, we always thank our Patreon supporters for their generosity. We cannot do this without you, and just you guys rock for supporting us there. And if you are not yet a Patreon subscriber, you can do that through our website as well. And then we also have our Amazon store. If you're shopping on Amazon anyway, you just go to our website, click on our Amazon link, which is on the right-hand side. There's a list of links and things, and you'll see, support our Amazon store. Something, I can't remember the wording, but it's over there.
Yeah.
And go to Amazon from there, and we will. The Amazon sends us a little bit of kickback from there. You don't spend any extra money, but we get some support, and everybody wins.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, check us out. Oh, I just remembered one other thing. This has nothing to do with Star Trek, and I probably should have put this up in the news, but Jared and I have started a new blogging project, and I probably should just link to it on our Facebook page. Jared has never seen anything to do with Sailor Moon. I've seen pretty much all of it, and I got Sailor Moon Crystal Blu-ray, and we've been watching it, and... Oh, you've read it, okay. But so if you're familiar with Adventures with the Wife in Space, which is a Doctor Who fan who introduced his not wee wife to Doctor Who, a classic Doctor Who, and they went through the whole classic series with her watching it and reacting to it. That's what we're doing with Sailor Moon. Jared is watching and reacting, and I'm blogging about it on my blog, which is cjsnotebook5.blogspot.com. I think I'm going to put links to it. I've only got through gotten episode 1 up, intro in episode 1, but it's been fun. So I don't know if we're not quite as funny as Neil and Sue, but we're having a good time. So if you want to check that out, feel free. Please do. Jared, have you had fun with it?
Yep. Lots of defensive snark. Preserve my sanity.
Well, I'm glad it's done that much.
Yep. No, it was fun. Not saying I would pick my own, but
A couple that watches anime together. Something.
Yep. We just call it the couple that geeks together stays together.
Yeah. Very true, very true. Well, speaking of which, so we look towards the schedule for upcoming. Make sure you are following our social medias, or at the very least, Instagram and Twitter, because I will be tweeting and Instagramming photos from Cincinnati Comic Expo, which is next weekend, where Chauncey and I will be geeking out and meeting Stan Lee. So excited! So, assuming I don't die of excitement after meeting Stan Lee, there will be, yes, there will be other, our photo op time is like 11:45, so it's early in the day, so, you know, I may be dead early, who knows. But yeah, assuming I'm coherent, I will be tweeting and posting pictures and all that fun stuff, so hopefully, unfortunately Stan Lee's panel is Friday night. So we won't get to hear Stan Lee talk in panel form because we're only going on Saturday. It's just the way Stan's schedule worked out, that they in their schedule for the convention worked out. So his panel is Friday night. But if you've never seen Stan Lee do a panel before, just go on YouTube. He's hilarious. Mm-hmm. Even though he gets the same questions, you know, every single time, you know, his answers, he's, you know, the man's just, he can't hear, but his brain is still, the man's got some serious wit and he is sharp. So, I still look forward to, you know, getting a photo with him at the very least. Hopefully we'll get to catch some other panels. Billy D. Williams, Lando Calrissian, is going to be at this particular con, so his panel is on Saturday, so hopefully we'll get to catch his. That should be exciting to hear Lando speak, among other people. So hoping that John Barrowman does not have to cancel. So apparently his husband recently had surgery, so he had to cancel some appearances for this weekend. So we'll see if John has to, you know, back out. Which if he does, that's completely fine. I totally understand. I've been the spouse who has had the had surgery, and had the concerned spouse be the caregiver. So I totally understand what situation he's in. But at the very least, Stan Lee. If anything else, Stan freaking Lee. So I will have a full report of that with next week's show, and then we will, sticking with Marvel, we will be talking Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. because Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 4 starts on Tuesday as of this recording. So it will be a very Marvel-centric show next week. And beyond that, we're still, you know, we make things up as we go along, really. So, but that's where we're at, dear listeners. So if anyone wants to join in on any of that, or if anyone's going to be at Cincinnati, please let me know. I will be the one probably dressed as Jessica Jones. So I think that's what I'm going with. Very exciting. All right. Fabulous. Fantastic. All of the above. Jared, thank you for joining us.
Yes, thank you.
I know of all of us, Brittany's the only one you've met, so hopefully the rest of us did not scare you, even though this is just voice form. So we will let you get back to apparently watching episodes of Sailor Moon Crystal. That too. Yeah. Well, at least we give you a short respite from your homework for a little bit.
Yep.
So, awesome. So, all right. With that, I think we should sign off for this week.
This is Brittany and Velda saying goodnight.
This is Chrissy saying goodnight from Salt Lake City.
This is Holly from Wisconsin saying good evening.
Did we lose Mitch?
I'm not sure.
No, I had my mic.
Oh, okay.
Uh-oh.
This is Mitch saying goodnight from Kitchener, Ontario.
Yeah, we didn't lose her. Okay. This is Rachel in Indianapolis, Indiana. Damn it, Jim, I'm a doctor, not a podcaster. You have been listening to the Five-ish Fangirls podcast. Any and all movies, books, games, and other forms of media mentioned are owned and operated by their respective copyright holders. No copyright infringement is intended or implied.